ask away. There's the only way we learn is by asking stupid questions, right? The only way we remain stupid is by being afraid of being seen as stupid, right? So, ignorance feeds ignorance, right? So please ask questions. It doesn't have to necessarily be about these games, but if it is specifically about those matchups or those situations, it is appreciated. And good stuff.
All right, so in this replay, it's from, if I can find it. Yeah, it's from Buffalo. He is the. Oh yeah, it's Buffalo. I always have trouble fighting into siege tanks. What can I do to make this a win? So
he has trouble engaging into siege tanks, was it?
Yeah, he says he has trouble fighting into siege tanks.
Okay. Cool.
I assume it's probably mech.
Yeah, it might be. It's just Terran versus Terran, so tanks are a pretty big part of this matchup, no matter how it goes. So to start off, what was the MMR in the league? Sorry, by the way.
It's platinum. It's pretty much exactly 3K.
About 3K, low platinum, high gold. Okay, awesome. All right. So basically, to start off, we've gone for a very early 2 barracks into a factory and a 3rd barracks. So we've got 600 minerals floating this whole time. We're not building a command center. To me, I look at this and I say, we clearly don't have a build order, or we're very unconfident in this matchup because this build doesn't have. It's very, very sloppy. Our opponent has got an expansion up, is keeping their money reasonably low, not incredibly good at their spending, but reasonably low. So I really feel like you want to look at this and you want to say, wait a second, there are huge problems with our build order here. We're floating 1,000 minerals at the 3-minute mark. We've got to figure out a better build order. This does not make a lot of sense. You guys saying Dr. Ryan's a lot louder than me. No worries. I will turn him down, guys. I will turn him right down. And hopefully that's good. Ryan, can you tell us what you had for dinner tonight?
Well, actually, right now I'm eating some tomato soup and garlic bread.
Tomato soup and garlic bread. Nice.
Well, actually, it's grilled cheese, but. Yeah.
Did you put garlic on the grilled cheese?
Actually, I don't know. I let's make grilled cheese. I think it's like garlic bread, kind of. Yeah.
Is it like so it's like a garlicky bread, and then you just grill some cheese on it?
Yeah, it's a nice crusty bread, and then well, like it's like a sandwich, kind of, like in between.
Did you put the cheese on it, or did it come with the cheese on it?
No, I put the cheese on it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. All right. Hopefully my volume's good.
Did your servant make it for you?
No. I made it once I got home.
Okay.
What do you mean servant?
But just I don't know. I don't know too much about your background, and just the way you were talking about it, you're like, I think it has garlic on it. And I'm like, do you have
Honestly,
like a nanny that made it for you or
bread
something?
In the cupboard, and I was like, okay, let's just take it out, and then yeah. So.
Nice. We needed the questions answered. I'm like, do you have a butler that makes your food for you? This is awesome. I want to find out this backstory, man. I want a butler.
No, man. I mean, do you think I know what I buy? It's cheap, and All
right, it's just build orders in your brain. You can't remember what you bought. No worries.
Exactly.
Guys in chat, what's the sound levels like? Are we good? We bad? I mean, people stopped complaining after I turned it down.
All right,
so
wonderful.
I assume it's good. It's good now. Okay, cool. We'll try to keep it there. So basically, yeah, this build order is really sloppy. This expansion's up super late. So even though the opponent's only up 1 SCV, the earlier orbital is a big advantage there. The opponent does have much slower production, definitely an issue, but you can already see a big supply gap, which just tells us the opponent's production's been a lot better. So this is a really loose build order from Buffalo, and I would really advise you try to focus on that. In TVT, normally you also want to play a lot more marine heavy rather than marauder heavy. So often it is better to try to go just one tech lab and just go stim, then shields, or shields, then stim. And that way you can have an extra reactor, more marine production. It's a small thing, but it is a little bit better. So here we also see something that's very common. I see a lot of Terrans do this where they just go into fast factories and starports. So the decision you got to make as a player is, am I playing bio or am I playing mech? So 1 base economy is 3 barracks, a factory, and a starport. That's full 3 base economy. Normally you want to expand to your natural well before you get up to that, right? And then you get that production up, and then by the time your natural is fully saturated, you add 2 more barracks. So you have 5 barracks, a factory, and a starport. You always want to go for that progression if you're playing bio before adding more factories and more starports. Otherwise, you end up with an overly complicated composition where your upgrades aren't synergizing. For instance, in this game, we're going for a super late Raven. If you go for a Raven, it's a spellcaster. You want to go for it very early in the game and just get 1 or 2 of them. But even then, it's a very advanced unit, and I only recommend it to advanced players. Likewise, if we're going bio and we're investing in bio upgrades, we should be investing in more than 3 barracks and non-stop producing out of them. We should also be getting medevacs to support them. But we don't want to be investing in medevacs and ravens at the same time because these things just don't mesh that well. So when I look at this build order, I see a build order that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We're not pressuring our opponent at all. We're sitting in our corner of the map. Other than the Reaper, we've done nothing. We've just put a Marine in the middle of the map and sat there. So that says to me, well, we're not being aggressive, but we're also not building our economy. So we want to choose to be a bit more in one direction or the other. Now, we could go up into 3 barracks pretty early, or go up into, a few barracks, a factory, a starport, and then expand behind it. But we want to be using those units for something. We want to at least be looking maybe for a double drop in the main base at some point, maybe some sort of frontal attack where we try to stim in the front. Otherwise, we want to say, well, if we don't think that's going to work or we're not confident with that, expand earlier and build our economy harder. Because at the moment, we're just being a little bit, kind of sitting in our corner of the map. This should work out really well for us if we just stim on that. This is actually a great situation for us. Oof. Ooh, barely gets out. All right, so yeah, the big problem we have is, I think, build order wise, we're a little bit too confused with our composition, right? This starport built a Raven and now it's just chilling. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, like, what's our plan really in this game? And I can't quite figure out what that plan is. So we got like some Vikings and a Raven. We got a bunch of fire. It's a pretty complicated composition though. Like I don't know. We're gonna see exactly how we use this. So we are scanning ahead, which I like, but the thing is, we're just kind of moving forward here with no spotting units in front of us, and we scanned really far back. If you think about it, if they've got defense, it's going to be here. We don't need to scan the back of the base. When we're moving up here, we should be scanning probably here, because we know he's going to either have that base, or he's still on 2 base. Either way, we just need to see the front. We just need to put a scan here. You see the edge of the front. Where's his army? What's it look like? So big problem, number one, is we should have just sent Marine spotters out to see if he moved out to a 3rd. Then we would have known his army is actually out here. We wouldn't be headbutting into his army. Number 2, our production's not quite right. It's a little bit overcomplicated here. And we've moved out with this army. But you see, we've actually got an army almost as big at home behind this. So which tells me, did we actually move out with everything? Or did we only move out with part of our army? Let's take a look at that. I think we're going to leave these guys behind, are we? What's going on? Oh, yeah, we left a whole squad of Marine Marauder behind. Oh, no. Oh, no. Big mistake, unfortunately. I do like that we're using control groups. Though it might be a bit too complicated. 3 control groups. For me, that's a bit... I'm like, I only use 2. I would have the tanks on the same control group. If this works for you, it works for you. It's fine. But the thing is, we haven't got any information. We don't know what the shit we're up against, right? We haven't been dropping. We haven't been sending Liberators in. We haven't really been seeing his army, and we don't know where he's expanding to. So looking at this attack, it's also something where it's like, what have we invested in the last few minutes? A 3rd command center, a 2nd starport. We haven't really invested in a really big biotank army. We haven't really done that. Ah, stop clicking. What did they just click on? So anyways... we're going to go for a bit of a headbutt here, and this is going to work out really badly for us. So, the trick is you don't engage into tanks in general, unless you have far superior numbers, right? The Raven does nothing there, by the way. We're not even using it, which is very common. Like I said, even a lot of Diamond players don't use Ravens, guys, because they're just like, it's too fancy. I'd rather focus on using my other units correctly. Rule number 1 of StarCraft is use a simpler composition and use it well before moving on to more advanced compositions. If you find a more advanced unit, that's and you like it, you find it cool, use it, sure, but keep the rest of your composition simple to accommodate that. So if you really like Ravens, go mass Marine medevac Raven, right? So you have a real mobile bio army where you basically just stim an A move, and you just focus on using interference matrix with the Ravens to shut down tanks, right? That's like you've simplified the composition. You've made it easier for yourself. But how should we have attacked that? Well, first of all, we should have known what we were going into. Said, hey, you've got tanks here. And we should have said, okay, come around and siege up here. And if you siege up, you see where the edge of his little white line radius is? We could siege up our tanks here and just chill and say, hey, I'm in range of your base. You have to come to me. So the whole thing of TVT is it's a positional war. You siege up and you say, you have to fight me. And then when they're responding to that, even if you're not really in a critical position, say you're just threatening here, that allows you to send another drop in the other side or a big attack to run by in. Because basically you pull your opponent's attention to one area, and then you either rotate your army quickly somewhere else and hope they're a bit slow to respond, or you send a Liberator or a drop or something elsewhere. But you never try to headbutt through the front. So looking at this progression now, we see we're still only on 1 engineering bay, and we haven't gone past, we haven't even hit 2 base production. We're still only on 3 barracks, but we're on a fully saturated third, or mostly saturated third, I should say. Our natural's a little undersaturated. So that's a big problem for us, that we're not kind of progressing with our production. So I think we need a more methodical, get 5 barracks, get a second factory maybe go heavier on the tanks, get 6th and 7th barracks, you know, really, really work in that regard. I think we're not adding enough production here, and I love that we've got a depot builder. I think this is awesome from Buffalo. I think there's some really nice things, like the control group usage is amazing, but we don't know what we're walking into. We've got very limited map vision. At any point, drops could be coming in. So we either need some turrets on the edges of our base, like, which this keeps catching us. These turrets are really bad. Don't ever build turrets in your mineral line in TVT. Turret, 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 turret. Zone out the edges. Always use static defense on the edges, guys. The other thing is marine spotters out on the expansions. You know, yeah, we've got the watchtower, but what if our opponent moved around one of these edges? At any point, an army could have stimmed into this base, and we would have just lost everything, unless a tank can defend an entire army. So try to make sure we just have a bit more direction here. Now, one of the big things I often encourage Terran players to do to simplify this matchup, because it can be a bit overwhelming, we're trying to do too many things like Ravens that we see pro gamers do, is just to do a big 2-base all-in. Whether you want to build Vikings or tanks as the focus is up. Vikings or medevacs as the focus is up to you. I often promote people to say just 5 barracks, factory, starport, marines, tanks, medevacs, and just keep looking to drop. You know, oh, there's 2 turrets. Who cares? Go in here with 5 medevacs. You lose one of them, boost in, siege up 3 tanks and 20 marines in their main base. Let's see someone deal with that efficiently, you know? This guy's actually pretty well set up. He's got a tank there, but still, you can siege up all your units out of range of that tank and just be like, I'm going to kill all your production and everything from here. And they're usually going to headbutt into that and die. So looking for doom drops can be really good. It also teaches you, because you're not building a 3rd base and double engineering bay upgrades, it teaches you how to rotate between these angles and find the soft spot, which, check it out, we found a soft spot. Are we going to utilize it though? Probably not very well, because this is hitting us at the same time, and it's going to be really hard to multitask both at once. So that drop comes in. I don't think we're going to realize it. Now there's tanks there. We've scanned those tanks. We should not be running through that mineral line. So we should just be pulling back and focusing at home right now. We've got to stay out of that tank fire. So we're kind of running our bio back and forwards way too much. Pull the bio behind the tanks. That's not a scary marine count. There's no reason for us to be eating the tank fire here. So we've taken a lot of fire here. So I think we should have scanned a little bit earlier, and we should have just let the tanks do the damage and kept the bio back there. We've just realized, oh shit, there's been a drop here this whole time. We will clear that up. So that was not a bad attack. We just could have been more conservative with the bio. And the fact that we're still building Ravens just tells me we're going to fuck up the next fights. So it's not that Buffalo doesn't have the skill to use the bio tank properly. It's that Buffalo is confusing, or complicating, I should say, the situation by adding Ravens in. And that already tells me that someone's trying to calculate too many things at once. I would never build Ravens past my first 2 Ravens in TVT. They're too complicated. When I see my opponents do it, I feel really happy, because I think, you know, they're getting a bit too fancy. And it usually gives me a chance to get back in the game. We see Ravens here on full energy, and they just haven't used a single ability all game long. So definitely, guys, don't be building Ravens. Don't do it. If you want to build 1 or 2 early, do it. Focus on using those abilities in your first engagement, or 2. But after that, yeah, just focus on the basics. Focus on the basics. So yeah, the production just never built up. That's the big problem here. And we'll see if we can find one more engage. So we're going to go to the same angle as before. Obviously, he's set up in position. So we already attacked that angle. And we just sieged up all our tanks in range. So we forgot to scan that time. And we're going to lose our whole army here. Right-hand side, completely undefended and completely open to drops. We don't even know about this base, though, because we haven't been splitting Marines off. Left-hand side, still only 2 turrets. If you go right along that left-hand side, you actually won't even lose a single medevac, and you'll get in the back of this base. So lots of attack angles open to us. If you're not sure about that, often, if you're in a big macro game, you like playing 3-4 base, splitting off a dropship or a Liberator, just queuing it along the edge to siege up a base or to drop in the back. That's going to scout where these bases are. It's going to do a crazy amount of damage, so it works out really well for you. But at this point, we see with no production up, you know, we're continuing to expand, but we just don't have any production, and our upgrades are falling further and further behind. So we have no longevity in this game. So I think there's a lot of things going well for Buffalo. I think cut out some of the complexity of the army composition. memorize the production progression, get up to 5 barracks, get up to 7 barracks, get up to a second factory, and try to have a more decisive game plan, whether that be just a 2-base all-in, attack, 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 or if you want to keep taking this many bases, just be a little bit more methodical with how we take those engagements, and that's going to make a big difference. All right. So what I really liked about what the player did in that game, guys, was he actually went and attacked. I just think his production didn't back up the attack. So I think what he did well, we've seen a lot of people who just never attack, and they just sit there in their corner and then slowly lose the game. But he actually was moving, and he did actually attack a different angle the second time. So I think we have the beginnings of the pieces that player needs to take their TVT to the next level. He just needs to fix it a little bit.